Yeah.
The Constitution also says in Article 1, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. Yet you, sir, campaign as a Christian nationalist.
Yeah.
Tell us what that means and how that coincides with constitutional law.
So first of all, I always ask people to define, well, what is Christian nationalist to you? So a lot of people say, well, it's theocracy. Well, I don't want a theocracy. I've never advocated for a theocracy. I go back to what our founder said. So George Washington said it's impossible to govern without God in the Bible, right? And what he was saying, John Adams said our Constitution is wholly inadequate except for a moral and religious people. Well, what they're saying that Christian ethics are the foundations of our moral law. And so I go back to that principle, say, hey, we welcome all faiths in America. However, there has to be a moral lawgiver. And if it's not God, then who is it? Now, the First Amendment says, Congress shall establish no law respecting the establishment of religion. However, who's Congress? Congress is Washington. The states, the local governments, that's not who they were talking about. By the way, 13 of the first 13 state constitutions, you had to make a public declaration of faith in the Christian principles to run for office. 9 of the 13, you had to make a public declaration of faith in Jesus Christ to run for office. So here, the same guys that wrote the U.S. Constitution, they wrote the state constitutions. They would be double speaking or they didn't mean what we now believe that separation of church and state means today. So what I go back to say, hey, we've got to come to some consensus. Where does the objective truth of morality come from?
Going into June, which was Pride Month, you put out a piece that said, the rainbow beast is coming for your kids.
Yeah.
What was the purpose of that?
Well, I've seen from the coast a lot of what's going on. Right about that same time, there was a school in, believe it was in Oregon. They had a drag show for elementary school students. They did not tell their parents that they were having this. We see things like the San Francisco gay men's choir putting out songs saying, we are coming for your kids. Mom and Dad, you don't like what we're doing? We don't care. We're going to get your kids, right? This has been the agenda of the far left radicals, right?
As Lieutenant Governor of the state of Indiana, what was the purpose behind that message?
To make sure that parents know that there are people out there that want to absolutely take the values that they're trying to instill in their kids and warp them. I served on the Hamilton County Library Board. I saw this up close and personal. There's an agenda from the far left to say we want to hypersexualize our children. The pornographic material in the elementary section of the library was egregious, and we were fighting to get rid of it. And it was one of those.
Don't you think parents have the power to direct their children?
100%. The government should not be in that. And that's what I'm saying is know that government schools, like in the case of Oregon and in the case of some schools that I've seen in Indiana, they are pushing this agenda and they're trying to subvert the parents' authority. Well, if anyone's trying to do something sexually to a child, I'm going to stand up against that.
So it's not just the pride beast coming for their kids.
I think we have to protect the innocence of our children. Doing it to you
just
now.
Putting Jim Bopp on the board of trustees. Who said the 10-year-old should have been made to carry that baby to term? Do you believe that?
The 10-year-old?
The Ohio young lady that came over had been a victim of incest, I think, or rape. Well, I would say both.
Yeah.
Mr. Bopp, who you've all put on the board of trustees, said, sorry, but she should have been able to, she should have had to carry that baby.
So I believe in the case of life, that life begins at conception. Mm-hmm. If there's horrible things that happen in life, though. So when things like rape, especially rape of a child, happen, there needs to be severe consequences for the person who did that. I've always said that.
Like the person carrying the baby.
No.
That's a severe consequence.
What I've said, if we're going to allow one, that would be the where I would say, hey, this would be the if you're going to have an in this consequence, you can do it here. However, this is my stipulation. I want that man who raped and caused that child now to be killed. I want that man to be charged for first-degree murder as well. And now the justice system will carry out justice on that man for ending an innocent life, bringing an innocent life into the world and then ending that life.
It seems like you've been in the news. Like you got a lot of people that really just don't like you. I mean, I see those folks.
Well, it just means I'm doing something right. I mean, you always have to. The Bible says, "Beware of those that all men speak well of." Right. So you always have to, kind of keep it in perspective. So who are the people who don't like you, don't like what you're doing, and if those are the right people to not like you, then you're doing something right. So I just I take it as a badge of honor when they don't. When I get the arrows at me, and and I signed up for this job. I was sick and tired of seeing what I was seeing, and I wanted to make sure that I was doing something about it. And so I kind of see it as a good litmus test and a good, breadcrumbs that I'm on the right track. If the Indy Star doesn't like you, if the media doesn't like you, then you're doing something right. So I just take that as a, hey, of course they're not going to like me. They're anti-American, socialist, communists. I mean, they hate everything that America stands for. So I want them to not like me, because that just means I'm the counter to what they believe, which is a good thing.
So what are we going to do to bring something to the table to say, let's bring some racial, social, economic equity to Indiana?
Yeah, great question. We're going to stop incentivizing the destruction of the nuclear family within inner city Black culture. That's the first thing, because it hinges on everything. When you incentivize Black women to have children outside of wedlock, where they get more money every time they have a child, that they're not married, they don't have a father figure at home, that destroys the Black culture. That has been the absolute linchpin on the destruction. Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, she knew this. She wanted to destroy the Black community. That's why they put Planned Parenthoods in inner city Black culture to eradicate Blacks from the face of the earth. That was her. I mean, Charles Darwin. That's what the origins of species was, and the preservation of the favored races is what the title of his whole work is, and it's all about getting rid of Blacks, and that's not a good thing. It's not a godly thing. It's a terrible thing. It's a wicked thing. And so what we got to do is we got to stop incentivizing these programs or having these programs that incentivize this destructive behavior. So the Brown administration, myself, our legislature, we're looking at that and we're saying, okay, we're not going to fund bad behavior. I think stop incentivizing babies out of wedlock. I mean, I think you're 4 times more likely to live in poverty if you have a child outside of wedlock. Every statistic for the last 5 decades has shown us that.
So Micah, so we had State Rep Jim Lucas proposing the state consider using firing squads and hangings as methods for carrying out state executions. What's the thought?
Good. I think that's good. I think that saves us a heck of a lot of money. And it's how we did it.
Can I? Yeah. Okay, I'll let you finish, Mike, and then I'll come in with the libertarian viewpoint on capital punishment.
Yeah. So I believe capital punishment is a good thing. I think it's a pro-life thing because it actually protects innocent life. And, the first Noahide law after the flood that God gave Noah was, if you shed man's innocent blood, by man's hand will your blood also be shed. And it was God's standard to say, I'm going to protect innocent life by striking fear into the heart of those who do evil. And we have to get back to being a state where go through the process. I think the worst thing that could happen is to, someone is unjustly charged and executed. You don't want that. But when we go through the process and we know without a shadow of a doubt that somebody has done these heinous acts, they need to pay the price. Now here's the deal. As a pastor, I would, just like the thief on the right, there's still hope for the people on death row. Like, they can still know Christ. They can still come to know the Lord, and they can walk into the next life of eternity, into paradise. And so I would say, hey, we can carry out justice in this life and have mercy on the person that's going to be executed by saying, hey, but Jesus still has a way for you. You still have hope. And if you accept Christ, you're going to walk into eternity in a totally different way than you would otherwise. And so I think you can carry out the death penalty in a loving way. And then it serves justice, because government's job first and foremost is to carry out justice. And second of all, it's to protect the innocent. And so and I think what's the problem is, what I saw with these last 2 executions is it's $1 million to get this death serum. That's ridiculous. That's insane. Lucy, I think what I was saying earlier, I heard you're like, you can't trust government to be the arbiter of life and death. And I think that's exactly the role of government in a lot of ways. Now, I agree, like when you have corrupt, evil people in government, don't trust the people. But I think we have to do a better job of making sure that we elect prosecutors, we elect elected officials that will steward justice appropriately. And that's why it's so important what we do at the at the ballot box. And then the other thing too is we can put in good mechanisms and boundaries to make it incredibly difficult for unjust verdicts to be handed down.
I think we have to get. I think we also have to take the approach. We can't Old Testament everything and forget he who is without sin cast the first stone. And at some point we have to look. We have to look at the compassion of Christ at some point and realize that, you know what, we shouldn't have the power of death in our hands. One death, somebody killing somebody else because someone killed someone makes absolutely no sense. It's like blood is blood and death is death. Period.
That's incredibly unloving, because what you do is you let the wolves continue to roam the shepherd's pasture, and good shepherds go after and kill the wolf. They don't continue to let the wolves just like ravage the sheep. You'd be a terrible shepherd.
But that's why you never compare. This goes back to three fifths. That's why you never call people animals.
You do. And there's a time and a place to say these are wicked, evil people. And there's, God does it all the time. God hates with a holy hatred. He hates what is evil. He loves what is good. This is what Scripture said. There's absolutely a time to say people are wicked and evil and they need to be addressed, and good people stand up to that. And so what happens is you have this virtuous, like this you're putting, Greg, you're becoming more merciful and virtuous than God when you say something like that. You're saying, well, let's not put that standard in place because it's just not loving. God made the wolf, and the wolf should be allowed to just roam free in the pasture. And then you look around and you say, well, why are all the sheep gone? Why'd they all die? Well, because you didn't do your job protecting the innocent and the vulnerable. And so it's absolutely a loving thing to say, no, this is an evil person and they need to be dealt with. Because if we don't kill anybody as the government, then I want that same respect shown to us by criminals.
Do you believe that someone from the government should pull this person over and should issue them a citation or a ticket that costs them money when they have harmed no one?
Yeah, if they broke the law, yes.
What law? Is it God's law or is it some made-up man's law?
It is God. It actually, you are following God's law, because God tells us in Romans 13 to honor the authority that God has placed up over us. And if the elected officials,
I'm a Nazi sympathizer in 1941, and I'm going to try to murder my Jewish neighbors because I'm following the authority in the country
that doctrine is so bad.
Oh, no. Hold on a second. No. Does the speed limit, as long as it doesn't reject God's authority, does the speed limit reject a biblical principle or a godly authority? Does it violate God's authority?
Slow down, you're going too fast on that donkey.
What Dietrich Bonhoeffer, obviously what Dietrich Bonhoeffer did in Germany was absolutely 100% okay, and it followed God's authority. So Dietrich Bonhoeffer,
because we are not a theocracy.
Nobody said we're a theocracy.
Let's bring in the Constitution.
I've never advocated for a theocracy. Can I finish? Your
standard was, no, you can't. Your standard was it in the Bible? That was your standard in this situation. We were talking about civil law.
A speed limit doesn't violate God's authority.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
God's authority with this.
You're advocating for anarchy is what you're doing.
No, I never said anarchy.
Yes, you are. You're saying laws aren't good because it violates
and without arch ruler. I deny that you have any moral authority over me as a person that is living inside the confines of the political state of Indiana. You do not have any authority over me. I don't care that you're lieutenant governor.
Okay.
I recognize that you have no moral authority over me. Now, you've got institutions put in place. You are now the mouth of Sauron, which is so sad to see, Micah.
Didn't you make an agreement with
You're advocating for the imprisonment and enslavement of human beings.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard you say, Lucy.